Hi everyone, my name is Kate Emerald, the founder of Life of Emerald. Today I am going to do a webinar on shadow. We have a guest here, her name is Neda. Hi Neda.
Hello, Kate. Hello, everyone watching today. Nice to meet you all.
All right, so everyone, I'm going to share my screen and we can go from there. Okay. All right, so welcome brave souls. Here is shadow. If you've heard of shadow, that's great. If you haven't, that's also great. Shadow is, have a look at this image. There's a clue to what shadow might be. So Carl Jung, Gustav Jung, is a Swiss psychoanalyst. He founded the analytical psychology. Jung's work was influential in the fields of psychiatry, archaeology, literature, philosophy, and religious studies. He lived in 1875 to 1961. He wrote the book, The Red Book, and it's about shadow. And in Jungian psychology, the shadow may refer to the unconscious aspect of the personality which the conscious ego does not identify in itself. For example, the shadow is the unknown side of our personality. And the outer world and inner world, we can divert that into two things. But within it, we have ourself, the self that I know to myself. I know who I am to the extent that I know myself. So if I've done shadow work, embracing the shadow work, meaning the facing my unconscious memories and behaviors and things that are hidden underneath, then my sense of self will expand. The more I do spiritual work and psychological work, my sense of self, that what's in the middle, gets expanded, and then by default I become a whole person, and by default I'm able to anchor in my power and my dignity, because I know what is hidden underneath, the anima, animus. And the ego, the persona, is more prevalent in this world, day and age, because some of the characteristics, such as be charismatic, be positive, those things are very encouraged by the society. So we are going to have easier time relating to those persona, those qualities in ourselves, but suppress the shadow, suppress the qualities that are sort of labeled as negative and bad by the society. And depending on which culture you come from, that stigma, the story around that will be different. For example, in Korean culture, as a woman, I'm not supposed to feel anger and express anger on a collective level. Particularly for my mom, when I was growing up, I was discouraged from feeling my anger. And so what I realized is that over many years, I suppressed my anger until one day things exploded and I got to see my shadow. And the example here is to draw the lesson that the more I suppress my anger, the more explosive power it has. And so why not we work on step by step the shadow, the anger, as, give it a label. It's a healthy emotion. It is unhealthy. It is unhealthy emotion because it's a function. It's not negative or positive. It has a function. So that is an example of why it's beneficial to face our shadow in small bits, small pieces, right? And so here's the question, what does it mean to be a human? Carl Jung says it's about humanness is about the experience between the Christ-like and Satan-like. That's the whole meaning of being a human. And so it's important to understand our capacity for being evil, that in return makes us respect ourselves. And pathway to completion as human being is through embodiment of the monster. Example, if you're raising a child baby, you see baby can be very angelic and very troubling, to say the least. And that human, that baby is us. We grew out of the baby. So if we're a human and healthy and who was encouraged to just feel whatever we wanted to feel as a baby growing up into an adult, then that shadow won't be as prevalent. But because it's easier to suppress the baby from crying, we give food. It's a normal thing. It's completely normal for how we choose to raise our child. I understand the challenge it can be from an observational point. The point here is that baby is always with us as an adult. So we cannot be a good person until you discover your capacity for evil, is the theory. And if you understand who you are, you understand the Nazis, and because we're monsters. So I'll give you an example. In Catholic churches, the Catholic priests who are coming out of pedophiles, and the theory is that they have not faced their shadow themselves, because there's a Catholic organizations, as an example, only go deep as the person where individual play a superficial role of holiness. Let me see. Okay. For the sake of appearances and to tell good about themselves. So what happens when we operate from this framework is that we separate the bad and the good, and we try to cultivate what's good and minimize what's bad in the human nature. And so what happens is the split makes it splits can bring out that tendency to do something sort of atrocious behind the scene and appear good in public, so that there's that split. And assuming that shadow is within him or her is external of him or her. Is good. So devil itself is not outside, it's inside. So shadow must be confronted in order to become a moral human being, and someone who can understand and have compassion for behaviors that are outside, looking outside, and you can understand why these people behave the way they do, and you don't scapegoat them, and we don't externalize them, but able to understand and hold grounding, hold truth and compassion. And the path to enlightenment for people who are in the spiritual awakening community is not by imagining the figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Okay. And okay, so Neda, do you have any thoughts, comments before we jump into the meditation? We're going to experiment our shadow through meditation.
I like how you emphasize the importance of bringing the shadow to light and working on our unconscious aspects and learning to accept those. I also believe is important as well. And And by accepting this, as in this slide you mentioned the evil nature, by accepting this evil nature within ourselves and realizing these tendencies that we have, and then also going one step further and then seeing why do I have this tendency, and finding that why. And then I believe that when we understand what caused that shadow, just then the shadow comes to light and it becomes our friend. And then we, so
I like that word.
I
Yeah, I
like
like that.
embrace my shadow.
Yeah, and I like that word friend. You make that shadow your friend, and definitely we can do. The more you love the parts that are hidden in yourself, the more best friend you can become to yourself, right? Hmm. Yeah, let me see if this is recording. Is it recording? Okay, cool. All right, so Neda, let me walk you and our audience into the shadow meditation. And the point of this meditation is to help us all uncover what is the shadow that we were not aware of and making that a friend right now. Okay? All right, so everyone, please close our eyes and get comfortable, either sitting or laying down. Listen to your body. And now please put your attention into your heart center. And there's an emerald green light emanating from your heart center. Create that. Let this emerald light expand outward, 1 meter behind you, in front of you, to your sides. 1 mile beyond you. Share the love in your heart to the world. And in this space, bring that green emerald light into your pelvic area, down. And shower that area with green light. Now bring the emerald green light from your pelvic area to the ground of earth, and imagine a cord from your spine penetrating down to the core of earth. And anchor your cord onto the core of earth. There's a lot of love in there. lot of love. And now we're ready to do some reflection. Think of a situation and or a person that really arouses your emotion. Either it be anger, either it be jealousy, either it be all things that make you feel uncomfortable. And imagine this scenery or this person's behavior. Try to articulate in your mind what is her or his behavior that makes you feel uncomfortable. So, example mine was when someone ignores me, it makes me feel uncomfortable. And bring the attention back to you, the uncomfortable self. Ask yourself, why do I feel uncomfortable with this behavior? And name that. I feel uncomfortable because I feel blank. I feel ignored. I feel disrespected. And ask yourself, what do I need in order to feel comfortable again? What can I give myself the comfort that I am seeking from external sources? So for me is giving myself that validation myself, giving myself the recognition myself. So try to explore yours. We're going to be here for 1 minute. And now the nurturing that you're giving yourself, remember, you can always, anytime, give that nurturing yourself, that part that you've been looking outside of you. And now we're going to move on to the looking at that self, where you're using this pain that you receive from outside. How reflect how you may use this as a weapon to pain others. Think of a scenario and situations where you have enacted this behavior toward other people. And now draw back the attention to you and ask yourself, is this behavior loving towards the other person? And also ask, where is the love in this situation? Look for the love. For me, because I love myself and I want to protect myself from pain, I unconsciously use the weapon to ignore other person. Become aware of that. And now, without the other person, um, without the other person, strictly be with yourself. You're with yourself right now. Only you exist in your mind's eyes. And we're going to try and heal our wound by giving the love that you want, the type of love you want. Pour that into you like a mother to a child would, a beautiful mother to a child would. We're mothering ourselves right now. Okay, and now go back to the very same situation and that same person. And imagine the same behavior coming from her or him. And now look at this behavior and situation and see what internally have changed in you. Feel it, articulate it if you can. Look at it with your mind's eyes. Okay. And with your mind's eyes, let's thank them, her or him, for being a great teacher for my wound. Thank them for showing me the hidden part of myself, ourself, that needed excavation, needed support. So thank them for coming into your life, for healing. And say bye and bring your attention to the core of Earth. And we're going to travel back to our body. Gradually let go of the core from your cord. Let it go and bring your awareness back to your pelvic area, the green emerald light in you, and to your heart, the emerald green light emanating to the world, throughout the earth, throughout the cosmos, everywhere. Share the love. Share the love. Share your love. And now we're going to bring back the awareness to our eyes and open our eyes when you're ready. Yeah, Neda, how was it for you?
It was very enlightening. I I could so I started crying, and it was it was good. I just accepted those parts of me, and I came to see the situation in a different light and accept that situation as how it is, instead of projecting my expectations about the situation. And yeah, in the end, we are all one. Thank you.
Neda, thank you for sharing your experience, vulnerability, and thank you for sharing that yeah, you were able to see it from a different angle,
Yeah.
and that we're all one, it connected, right?
Uh, yeah.
Oh, well. So for me, going through the experience, I was working with people where I feel ignored by, and I looked inside of myself where I felt ignored growing up sometimes.
Uh-huh.
And by giving myself the mothering nurturing, I was
Yeah.
able to go back to past and fill the gap, fill the hole,
Yeah.
and like mitigating it, right? Making the pottery, the broken pieces pottery whole again. And when I flipped the paradigm of me using this as a weapon, like, because it pains me, let's see, unconsciously, do I make this pain, this behavior as a weapon to treat other person as if I was treated, like ignoring that person as well? And I did find a situation where I did, and I, because I don't know how they feel, it's out of my radar whether it's painful or not. But nonetheless, that behavior I replicated, and so I recognize that first of all, I need to attend to my pain, and
Mm-hmm.
then I lose the grip of wanting to use this as a weapon to hoping that I can trigger other people, right? So it's a win-win scenario by looking at what's paining me and nurturing myself and taking, like, dropping the weapon myself, like from my free will, so that the ripple effect of hurting other people can stop by healing myself. And so that's the experience I got.
Yeah, actually, so when you mentioned, you asked about why does this situation make you feel uncomfortable? And you asked us to verbalize it in the meditation. There was that point, and when you said that, and I verbalized it to myself, I was afraid. I said, I'm afraid of losing someone who holds a special place in my heart. So it was this fear of losing someone that that was making me feel uncomfortable, this fear. And then and then when you mentioned the um like the weapon part, I did not really think of it as a weapon, but I tried to imagine um instances where I in had a similar situation. And the same thing goes with like with my mom. And she so so my mom would send me messages, or my dad would send messages, and it takes me a really long time to reply, or or and and she would she started feeling hurt from that. and and so I realized that um like that was a similar situation, that like she was feeling hurt in that situation, and then in this situation I'm feeling hurt. So it's very similar situations. And then um at the end, though, when we talk over the phone or in person, then it's like, oh, I just missed you, I just wanted to talk with you. And 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 then it's in both situations, even with this situation and the other situation, the one with my mom or parents, and then the one with the friend, both of them, text messaging is a very limited form of connecting with someone. Very, very limited. Text messaging or any type of messenger is a very limited form of connecting with someone. Like you might feel like, oh, like with my oh, she's not responding. Oh, my daughter doesn't care about me, and then it's like surprise, and then we meet in person or talk on the phone and it's totally different. So we cannot um evaluate the importance and depth of any relationship by just a text message. I feel like social media has it is not a proper way to evaluate any type of relationship, and it can actually cause individuals to feel disconnected when in reality in person when they meet they are connected. So I had these realizations through um, this. Yeah, thank you.
Wow, thank you, Neda, for such an in-depth analysis of what went on in your life, tying back to the social media. And
Yeah,
I
so
can totally see what you mean. It's
yeah,
easy to misunderstand the quality of relationship by the using social media, which does not reflect at all their love for you. Hmm.
so nowadays I'm not so big on using social media or text messaging, and I just meet people in person or set a schedule to meet in person, and it's totally different. The that Yeah.
Like going back to the old fashioned before the social media, where we
All
connected. Oh, okay.
thank you, Kate.
Welcome. And this is really important for many of us out there looking for interaction in social media, and equally, but equally like translating that to, does he or she like me or love me? Like looking for that. And so, thank you for that lesson, Neda. And do you have any questions about what I shared today in terms of lecture, meditation, or anything?
um i I think I am good. I think I'm good with questions.
Hmm.
I mean, if I have one question, I would want to ask why in the meditation did you um call it a weapon? Is there a reason you called it a weapon? When
Yeah,
I heard weapon, it was like very sharp sounding word.
sure, sure.
So why you chose that?
Yeah, thank you for that. And I believe that every individual have the way in which they see the world. And
Mhm.
for me, I use that word weapon because I believe that the war that is happening outside is it starts from within. The war is outside because there's something going on inside. And so I wanted to draw the analogy from that framework of war. And I used the word weapon, to show an imagery that this psychological behavior I do
Mhm.
is like simultaneously within that framework of war. And so my work of my work advocating for shadow work is based on my desire to end war on earth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for explaining it in the terminology of war. Yeah, it gives it a different um, feeling again. Our inner war, and then coming to peace with it.
I am so grateful you asked me that question for clarification.
For Thank you for today and for your talk on shadow and the meditation. Thank
My pleasure. So here's about me. I guide corporate executives and politicians to make mindful decisions so we can change the world powerfully. And I'm currently looking for clients. Along with the shadow work, I am on consultation astrologer. I look at the patterns in the sky and study the history of when and which things happen in the world. So I am able to draw the analysis, sort of like an analysis of what may happen in the future, and what is sort of blocking our decision making power, by looking at psychology, the shadow, looking at astrology, the cosmic map, and I'm here to guide humanity. So whoever is looking for guidance, feel free to reach out to me. I can be reached at Instagram handle Global Healing Movement 2020, and email is lifeofemerald@gmail.com. My name is Kate Emerald. I hope to see you later. Bye.
you.